Excuse me, sir. All right. How are you doing today?
Really? I think Dixie told her, but tell her again. I will. I'm that way. Really? Still? Don't worry.
Right. He was on the meeting spot. And they gave him a medal for becoming a It doesn't mean I don't agree with it, but I'm not going to most of them do that.
Why are all these you notice when you watch tennis, they have women, athletes, that was how
Does they have any original parts? That's what I want to know. They're all replacement parts. Still right then. Of course, you have to have History major, UNC, got a great education, thank you.
I got
Ready to get started? Let's get rolling. Welcome to Rotary, everyone. My name is Marvin Carver. I've been a Rotarian. Greetings. I've been a Rotarian about almost 40 years now, but only 3 years in this club. But it's great to be a Rotarian. Let's start with a prayer, please. Dear Lord, how blessed we are to live in a country where we can gather together as a free people to thank you for our countless blessings. We have learned from your teachings that it is better to give than to receive, and that you love a cheerful giver. As Rotarians, we give in the form of service. We pray it is pleasing to you. Amen. Start off by any guests here today. Anybody got guests?
Oh, come on, get up.
I have my mom, and Veronica.
Any other guests?
He served with us in Rwanda in the mid-1980s, and he's been a population officer in much of Africa, China, and lived in a lot of other interesting places. And he's just in the area.
Well, there she is.
She's here. Any other guests?
I'd like to reintroduce Marcia Woodward, who was here 2 weeks ago and actually wanted to come back.
How about visiting Rotarians? We have any visiting Rotarians today?
Mark Cleary, Rotary Club of Oxford.
I am looking for the fine basket. Mike, there is no fine basket.
Let me see if I can find one. Hold tight. Keep carry on.
Oh, carry on. Any birthdays this week? Anniversaries this week? All right. I'm going to get started with a couple of facts. I love some of the, I'm in the financial business, and I get a lot of things from time to time from different publications that they send, and I've got some that they just send facts. It's called Did You Know? I'm going to share a few of these. Interesting that this particular one came today, but it said the hottest 23 days ever recorded on this planet in 120,000 years of human history happened in July of 2023. This was amazing. The market capitalization, a little over $3 trillion of Apple Computer, is larger than the gross domestic product of the country of France.
That's what I just said. I've been there.
Humans have made enough plastics since World War II to wrap the surface of the planet entirely in cling film. The world's data centers produce more emissions than the country of Australia. This one's kind of sad. Every day, more than 700 million people go to bed on an empty stomach. That's certainly not a lot of us. Bob Slater's not here today, is he? Somebody loves trains like we do. Taking a train instead of a short flight can reduce emissions by 84%. Every day, Google processes more search queries than there are people on the planet. Wait a minute, that can't be right. That's right. It is 8.5. They say 8.5 billion people. Wow. Americans now spend more money on legal cannabis than they do chocolate. More money is spent on bottled water, about $270 billion a year, than would be required to provide safe drinking water for the entire planet. That's sad. Living near a nuclear power station gives the same radiation exposure equal to the amount of naturally radioactive potassium from 50 bananas. Where did they come up with this junk? Freddie, you'll appreciate this. Being a history man, I'm a history major from Chapel Hill. These are some interesting facts that go back to the 1500s. Most people got married in June in the 1500s because they took their yearly bath in May.
We got married in June.
And they still smell pretty good by June. However, since they were starting to smell, the brides in June would carry a bouquet of flowers to hide body odor. Hence the custom for a bouquet when you're getting married. Bath consisted of a big tub filled with hot water. Now the census back then, the man in the house had the privilege of nice, clean water. Then came the other sons and other men, grandfathers, etc. Then the women, and then the children. Last of all were the babies. By then, the water was so dirty you could lose someone in it, and that's where don't throw the baby out with the bathwater tank. Now, houses had thatch roofs. This thick straw was all piled up. They didn't have any wood underneath it. So early on, everybody went into the house. Animals to get warm, and cats and other small animals, and bugs were in the roof. When it rained, it became slippery. And sometimes the animals would slip and fall off the roof. Hence the saying, it's raining cats and dogs. But there was nothing to stop other things from falling into the house. And this posed a real problem with bugs and droppings and other things. So it could mess up your nice, clean bed. This is where canopy beds came from. And the floor was dirt. Only rich people had slate floors. So hence the saying, we're dirt poor. And the wealthy had slate floors that were slippery. So in the winter when they were wet, they spread straw on the floor to keep their footing. And winter came on and they added more straw until sometimes you'd open the door and it would get slippery. So a piece of wood was placed right in front of the door. It was called a threshold. In those old days, they also cooked in the kitchen over a big kettle and always had a fire. And every day they lit the fire and added things to the pot, mostly vegetables. And they didn't have much meat back then, so they'd stew for dinner and leaving leftovers in the pot. We get cold overnight, and the next day, sometimes that stew had food in it that had been there quite a while. And that's where peas porridge hot, peas porridge cold, that's where that came from. But when visitors came over in those days, they would show off by putting a piece of bacon or some meat in there. If you were wealthy and had bacon, you would bring in home the bacon. They cut off a little piece to share with guests, and they'd sit around and chew the fat. Back then, they also had plates that were made out of pewter. And a lot of times they had tomatoes. The pewter really had lead in it. So people were getting sick, lead poisoning. They thought the tomatoes were what was causing it, but it was the lead in the plate. I'm going to have to stop it. I'll save some more for next time. With that, I'm going to put it in the mic, but I got some more.
We'll bring you back again. Good job. I know everybody here feels smarter now, man. Come on now. Who knew? Who knew? That's the dog. All right. I'm so glad to see everybody here today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to East Chapel Hill Rotary. What is this, our 9,412 meeting, or whatever, something like that. Jim, you would know. You went the first one. We've got another great program here today. I'm really excited to listen to Katie today. We also have one of our largest events coming up next month, our Teacher Supply Store, August 20th and 21st, right, Tim? Yep. Tim has sent out a sign-up sheet. Please be on the lookout for that. We'll probably get an old-fashioned sign-up to go around in the next week or so. This is one of our biggest our biggest social services event of the year. We're doing around 560, 70 teachers this year, I think, which is a lot. So come on out, get involved. I'm going to get Cliff Butler to come up and introduce our speaker, because I think everybody's ready for her to get started with for a really exciting program here today. I should have known Cliff would be.
Everybody knows Dean Smith recruited the first black basketball player, and he knew he had to get a really good one. That was back in 65, 60. Anyway, when they were giving a Moorhead scholarship to the first woman, they knew they had to get a really good one. And this is the one they got, Katie Ziegler, and she is marvelous. Come on up, Katie.
Good work, Cliff. Great job.
But I like it, Cliff, short and sweet. I forgot to introduce Andrew Parrish.
Yes, Andrew. Andrew's our Associate Director of Development at the Ackland. It's just a pleasure to have him here, and I don't mind telling you, he saved my bacon today. Really. So, well, hello, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I wanted to talk about the Ackland Art Museum, which opened in 1958. So I'm just curious how many of you have visited? Yay, good, wonderful. So on the screen is our motto of the Ackland.
It actually got forward. Back up.
Okay, sorry.
It looked like it jumped a lot.
There we go. It describes the journey all visitors experience, regardless of age, ethnicity, familiarity with art and museums, etc. We're open to all, and we're never charged. We're always free. It's also a great example of our new branding. The lively color, the fuchsia, we thought was exciting and attractive to people in that way. I Googled it, and actually the meaning of fuchsia is maturity and certainty. So we'll take that too. And you see, we love our stretchy letters. So, make sure I'm going the right way. There are so many things I could tell you about the Ackland, but I want to zero in first on our students. So part of their education at UNC We call ourselves the largest classroom on campus because we serve 10,000 UNC students a year, undergraduate, graduate, and professional. And again, students of every background, traditional, non-traditional, first generation, come into the Ackland by themselves, they visit with their family, or they take a class at the Ackland. So it's a very exciting place to be. Sorry. So here is Elizabeth Manikin, our head of university teaching, and she is with a small group that you can see how intense everybody is. I love that, and how much they're paying attention. It's always that way. And then we have the galleries upstairs. It's called Ackland Upstairs. There's 6 bays for different professors to put art together that is for classes to visit multiple times. And they're up for 3 months at a time. And we have the public come as well. And you'll see here, we tell you what class it's for, who's teaching it, and a bit about an overview of the course itself. Then we have the study gallery, and few college or university art museums can make the claim to having the 10,000 students each year that we do. It's one of the things that makes the Ackland truly special. Now, we also cater to K through 12 students, and we serve, at the moment, we're serving 3,500 of those a year. We've gotten that back up since COVID, but we have aspirations to do about 10,000. We give $200 travel grants for students, groups that need that for the buses that come, and it makes the field trip doable for almost anybody. They come from Chapel Hill and across the region for a lively learning experience with original works of art. Looking closely, our motto, thinking carefully and responding creatively to art from around the world, stimulates new ways of thinking for teachers and students alike. And in addition, it makes meaningful connections with their curriculum. Interactive tours are designed to integrate the arts across all disciplines, supporting North Carolina K-12 standards and extending classroom learning through observation, creative thinking, and personal reflection. Using object-based learning and an approach that emphasizes collaboration and active dialogue. The museum's trained docents facilitate the incomparable experience of viewing art up close and in person. And the Ackland also provides pre- and post-museum exercises to create a holistic visiting experience. So you'll see this little fellow, and he seems to have our motto, look close, think far, very, very well in mind. Now, we also present about 200 public programs for adult audiences each year. They vary from guided tours like this one from our recent Unsettled Things show, which is, by the way, going to the brand new International African American Museum in Charleston, South Carolina in the fall of 2024. It was to have been their opening special exhibition, but they had problems with their HVAC system. So it will appear there a year from this fall. We're very proud of that. We also have exhibition openings and accompanying receptions. And I think the music in the galleries is gone. Now I want to tell you a little bit about our outstanding collection. We have, out of over 20,000 objects, we have 16,500 works of art on paper. So that is drawings, prints, and photographs. And here we go from the 15th century all the way to the present. So here, for example, is a 1510 woodcut from Albrecht Dürer. It's called Expulsion from the Garden, showing the fate of Adam and Eve. And next, do any of you recognize this painting? The fantastic Eugene Delacroix, perhaps the best example known of Cleopatra. The piece was little known to the outside world because it was bought very early for the Ackland, like in 1959. So it was stayed in Chapel Hill, but it was requested for a big retrospective at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York and the Louvre in Paris. So the Met wanted the piece, the Louvre passed on it. But when the folks from the Louvre got to the Met and they saw Cleopatra and the peasant, they changed their minds. And they took it to Paris and gave it a wall all by itself. Wow. We had many selfies come in that summer of people from this region with that painting, so proud. One of the things that is so interesting about it is you usually see Cleopatra dying. And in this painting, Delacroix has her considering. She's making the final decision, and you see how her eyes are absolutely riveted on the snake, making up her mind. Now, I'll bet many of you don't realize that the Ackland has the only collection of Asian art in our state, and it happens to be one of the finest in the entire Southeast. This magical gallery of a few years ago featured light-sensitive Japanese and Chinese screens of great quality and rareness, along with sculpture and other works on the theme of nature. The oversized contemporary piece in the center is by Cambodian artist Sophie Pitch. It's made of rattan and wire to resemble a lotus, one of the 8 auspicious symbols of Buddhism. And other highlights of the collection are the fact that it was put together by the great Sherman Lee, who was an Asianist and was director of the Cleveland Museum of Art before he retired to Chapel Hill. Before that, he was one of the monuments men in Asia. That's how he got started and his passion began. He lived in Chapel Hill for 25 years, helping to build up the, acting as a pseudo-curator for us, helping to build up the collection. And you see a Thai head of the 16th century on the left and a sublime torso of a Khmer figure from Cambodia on the right. Now, sorry, going too fast. Our modernist work is another great Ackland strength. The Rose Piper's Slow Down Freight Train of 1946-47 is about the northern migration of Black people from the South. And it's a favorite to teach from with its highly graphic qualities and striking color. She's a female artist. I had never heard of her until I came to the Ackland, but we're so glad to have this. Perhaps my favorite artist of American modernism is Arthur Dove. And here is one of his fabulous pieces called Tree Forms, which we have out as much as we possibly can. Dove saw a correlation between music and art, and I think you can see that in the implied movement here. Now, I'll end our dive into American modernism with this great beauty of a big, big painting by Irishman turned American Sean Scully. It's called Red Durango. It was painted in 1991. Using a vocabulary limited to stripes, Scully manages to create an almost sculptural work with patches of lines going in opposite directions. And I hope you'll come and see the thick, gleaming paint on the surface. It's something to look for. Now, I'm going to switch gears for a moment, and I want to show you 2 areas for which the Ackland is not yet known, but we're making great strides forward. In recent years, we've been consciously expanding our holdings of art by the people of Southern Africa, a stimulating environment to a more traditional holdings of classical art from the western and central areas of this tremendously diverse continent. This recently purchased headrest from around 1900, though not large itself, has a powerful sculptural and graphic presence that is a focus in our galleries. Also from South Africa is this recent acquisition of a beaded collar, quite gorgeous. Now my specialty is Islamic art, and you'll not be surprised to find that we're adding to our modest collection of objects of singular importance like this one is a highly ornamented page with burnished gold from a Quran of the 9th or 10th century made in North Africa or the Near East. Notice how the Kufic writing, the script in black ink written with a reed pen, not a brush, stresses the horizontality of the letters from right to left in concert with the horizontal format of the parchment page. This is from Surah or chapter 97, Al-Qadar, the power, which speaks of the night of glory when angels and the Holy Spirit descend. It is all peace until the break of dawn. Now, once in a blue moon, lightning strikes at the museum. And in 2017, we received an absolutely transformational gift of 137 Dutch and Fleming 17th century drawings, including 7 by Rembrandt, as covered in the New York Times. Not only did this large largesse from double alumni Sheldon Peck and his wife Lena make us the only public university art museum in the country with a collection of drawings by Rembrandt. In one fell swoop, it made the Ackland a deep source of Northern European drawings, one of interest to scholars around the world. Here is the press conference at which we announced the gift, and you see the Peck sitting there next to former Chancellor Carol Folt and David Root. I'm sorry, the screen is blanked out. So I was lucky enough to be at the museum when this remarkable event occurred. The most fortuitous gift to a museum in my over 25-year career. Fantastic. With some of the endowment that was given by the Pecks, we recruited Dana Cowan to be the first Sheldon Peck curator for European and American art to 1950. Here she is in front of the Virgin and Child with the infant John the Baptist of the 1560s by Bronzino. Dana is piloting a major international show from the Peck collection that started at the Ackland last fall. I hope some of you got a chance to see it, and has traveled to the Netherlands, putting the Ackland firmly on the map. The exhibition is accompanied by a scholarly catalog and a state-of-the-art website distinguished by very high-resolution images, so high that you can see the quality of the paper of each drawing. It's reachable at peck.ackland.org, and I really recommend that you go have a look. It's wonderful. Now here's where the Peck show appeared in Amsterdam this summer at Rembrandt House, which was reopening after being closed for a few months for a major renovation. So the whole town was very, very excited. You see the orange bow around the building. It was the perfect time to show our Peck collection. And here's Dana enjoying seeing a visitor at the opening, looking very closely, as we like to do. Now coming up at the Ackland soon, we're presenting the National Portrait Gallery's Outwin Achiever Portrait Competition for the second time. So it's an honor that makes me especially proud to have this show coming from my old stomping grounds at the Smithsonian. Artists from all over the country are invited to send in portraits in all media. Here are a few. Only 42 are selected from over 2,700 entries. So it's really the best of the best, and a wonderful experience to see. Now, the Gilcrease in Tulsa, Oklahoma has the greatest collection of indigenous art in the United States. We're borrowing highlights next winter and early spring, and have been talking for months with groups who have an interest in indigenous art to develop our programming around this. It's incredibly exciting. The exhibition showcases the unique formation of Gilcrease's museum, the Gilcrease Museum's exceptional native collections, and surveys more than 3 millennia of indigenous art, archaeological and archival works. By enlisting indigenous aesthetic and philosophical frameworks to interpret the work, the exhibition also aims to amplify the voices of Native American peoples. Now, we're doing great programs and exhibitions, as you can see, and couldn't be happier. But our building is holding us back. We are bursting at the seams, as this picture shows, in every possible way in our under 40,000 gross square foot building. So we've done a professional analysis, and we know that the Ackland needs a facility that matches the quality of our art and the standing of our university in this country. We have one of the best public university art museums in America, but from the looks of our building on the outside, you would never know it. To maximize the collections and program offerings, the Ackland needs 101 gross square feet in a single building. And to maintain our service to the campus and the community, we need a prominent and accessible site on the main North Campus where we are now. We have to be close because when all those 10,000 students come in with their professors, they have to be able to get from their class into the Ackland and then back out where they're headed again. And we've learned that it's not viable to upgrade or expand the current building. So I'll just share a few insights with you. If I can get that.
It's just a connection issue, it looks like.
Is it? Do you have it over there?
That screen's working. No, nothing's working right now. Just keeps glitching.
Just the last slide.
That's our club motto.
I like it. Well, here we go. So nearly 7 years ago, or actually now it's a little bit more than 7 years ago when I started, it was obvious that we needed a new building. To get ready to tackle that, I asked many people what the Ackland's biggest unexploited opportunity was. And the answer that I got over and over was visibility and relevance to the community. So I asked myself, how do you fix that? We were looking for higher attendance, more notice being taken locally, statewide, nationally, internationally, and better fundraising. And I will tell you, we have been busy. Except for the setback of COVID, we've improved in all the ways I just mentioned. I credit our internal branding, our strategic planning, our space use analysis, site studies for a new building, and a strategic plan refresh that we've done. For example, we have doubled our budget to approximately $4 million a year in the last 6 years. We raised $125 million toward UNC's campaign for the Ackland. The prior campaign at the Ackland raised $13 million. So we have people like Andrew to thank for that. Endowing key positions is really, really important to us. We've endowed the curator of European and American art, as I mentioned, and half of the director of education and interpretation. But we have other positions to endow, like our chief curator, our head of paper conservation. Even my position would be fabulous to get endowed. We have had a growth in visitorship. I think the information up here, no, it's correct. It's from 40,000 to 60,000 just before COVID. We have not yet built back up to that, but that's where we're headed. The FY18 number of impressions from paid media was 650,000. The FY22 number of impressions, 7,128,000. And our annual marketing reach has increased from 2.2 impressions in 2018 to 12 million impressions last year. Also, I am delighted to say we're working very closely with the university on a new building. So I'd love to see if anyone has comments or questions.
Have a new building.
Yes.
Where on campus would you want it to be located?
Well, at the moment, we are looking at redeveloping our own site in concert with the development of the Porthole Alley on the west side. If you're standing in front of the coffee shop, it's to your
Obviously, you have to go up.
And we have to go up.
Right.
That's correct. Yes. We won't be a skyscraper, but we do have to go up. Yes.
Have you considered Chapel Hill North, for putting some of your facilities, maybe storage, that type thing?
Well, we actually are moving some work into Chapel Hill North now because we've run out of storage, but ideally we would have everything right there so we can pull it for visits of students and scholars who come. That's the very best.
Right.
Yes, sir.
You said you're going up to 101,000 square feet. What is it today? Just to put it in
39.
Oh, it's almost.
So it's 2.5 times.
Wow, that's great.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
You've shown us a lot of striking pieces today. How many of those pieces would we see on the visit, at any one time to the museum?
I think most of the pieces I've shown you are on view. The Durer woodcut is not, but the Cleopatra is, the Sean Scully is,
Arthur Dove?
The Arthur Dove is, yes.
Do you have other Arthur Doves?
We do not. It works on paper. That's our only painting.
It's a shame.
Well, we are hoping, we have some acquisition funds to use every year, and then we also have many works of art given to us by donors. So we're hoping to work on beefing up our American collection through donors. Yes, ma'am.
So, at the very beginning, you didn't show any antiquities except in the case at the very beginning, they were looking at attic-like figure vases. But in general, what is the policy of the museum with regard to the acquisition of antiquities, and that would also apply to Native American objects as well?
Well, we're all familiar now with the fact that things that have been taken from other cultures are frequently asked to come back. And the UNESCO guidelines are, if you can show that an object has been out of its country of origin since 1970, that's just the line in the sand they decided to draw, then it is okay to have it. So that's the principle by which we try to make our decisions. It's not always easy, we have had in my time, 2 objects have been requested back. One was from India, a beautiful sculpture that was taken from a temple, and there was a police report about that theft, and we were happy to return it. Although we did ask if it could stay as a gift to its visit, as a gift from the people of India to the people of the United States, and we did not ever get an answer on that. So I guess the answer was no. And then we recently had a Holocaust plane. The relatives of a Holocaust victim who was forced to sell his paintings at a low price have asked for a painting back, which we are returning. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the process in terms of loaning artwork like this to other museums around the world and so on. When you loan pieces for a tour or whatever, do you generate revenue for that, or is it just recognition of you and seeing the action that we get back?
When we do a show that we loan out, there is a fee that is paid, and it covers making the crates, the shipping and insurance costs, and if we do charge a loan fee, that fee really covers the time of the curators and other people who worked on the show, the conservator who had to do things to make objects ready to travel, etc. We don't. That's not a big money maker, no, unfortunately. Yeah. Yes.
So the high school kids who come to the visitor center want to know who's buried there.
Oh, yes. Well, that would be William Hayes Acklin, our founder. That his burial in the building was one of the requirements that he laid out. And what we have done recently, though, is to do a lot of work on his background and to make that very transparent. So it turns out, sadly, his fortune comes from slavery, from the sale of slaves. His stepfather was in partnership with a man oddly named Franklin, and so Acklin and Franklin were the largest slave traders in America, and the family also owned slaves and used them in agricultural production. So that is where the resources that were used to start the Acklin come from. We're very transparent about that, and have it on our website and actually in the tomb when you go, along with the painting of Mr. Acklin, so that you can see that he was a white man of great privilege. He's wearing an ascot sitting in a library. Yeah. Yes, sir.
That being the case, if you do get a new building built, what's it going to be called?
It really depends on if we get a gift large enough to think about renaming. I guess, as they say, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
They can put your name on it if you give enough.
Hitler was an art lover, and he had a Dürer that he took with him everywhere and opened it up wherever it happened to be. And about 30 years ago, when I found out about that, the book I was reading, I was at the Acklin, and they had that picture. It was the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, done by Dürer. Hitler's statement.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
I don't know if that's permanently in the Acklin, or it might have been.
It's probably part of our collection. Yes. Yes, sir.
Katie, I noticed that you work at Steer in Sacramento.
Yes.
Okay, that's another name that brings a lot of questions. Is that going to stay named that? And of course, that wealth has made a lot of, it's produced a lot of benefits to a lot of people.
Yes.
However, the opioid crisis has shown that name has been disparaged.
Right. So the question is about the Freer and Sackler galleries at the Smithsonian, our National Museums of Asian Art. And since I left the museums, they have reversed the name, and they now call themselves the National Museum of American Art. And then they will say the Freer Gallery and the Arthur M. Sackler Gallery. Arthur Sackler sold his part of the pharmaceutical manufacturing concern to his two brothers long before he died. So he did make some of his resources in pharmaceutical manufacturing. he also made a great deal in what they call medical publishing. So he published about drugs and new techniques in medicine in many languages for publications that went around the world, and that's another big source of his funds. So his surviving wife, Jill, feels very strongly that he should not be painted with the same brush as the rest of the family, and the Smithsonian, I think, recognizes that there's some culpability there, but changing the name, as I understand it, is not in the cards right now. Charles Lane Freer, on the other hand, was utterly fantastic, one of the greatest American philanthropists there is, put together a remarkable collection of Asian art and left a huge endowment to support it, built a gorgeous building on the National Mall. So it's we want to keep the Freer name, obviously, very much so. Yes, sir.
With 60,000 or so visitors a year, have you been tracking the collateral commerce that the Ackland has brought to, if you will, downtown Chapel Hill? And what would you envision that to be if you triple the size of the museum with respect to that sort of impact on the economic, if you will, commerce of downtown Chapel Hill?
We know that the arts are a huge sector of our economy in this country. It's a bigger sector than sports, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yes. And so we are responsible for hotel nights, restaurant meals, etc. We are free of charge as a museum. But if we're larger, we would expect to have many more visitors and have a much larger impact. And my guess is that we would have more people spending a night in Chapel Hill and staying longer as a result of having a top quality museum to go and spend time in.
You had mentioned something about pre and post exercises, maybe to a visit.
Yes.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so we make materials available to teachers that they can use to prepare their students to come to the museum. So they see images of some of the works they're going to be seeing in the flesh, and they learn a bit about them, and then they come in and they see them, and afterwards, this is all connected to their curriculum. So afterwards they go back and they look at them again and they talk about how whether they're looking through a lens of language arts or social studies or whatever it might be. That's the kind of material I'm talking about.
Would individuals be privy to that?
Oh yes, it's on our website.
Okay.
You can learn and do, I think, it's under that section. Yes, sir.
Can you say a few words about your years as a Rotary ambassadorial scholar?
When I was
Scholar in Egypt.
Oh yes. Well, I was just so incredibly fortunate. I had decided that I wanted to study Islamic art in depth, and the best program in the world is a terminal master's degree at the American University in Cairo. And it's because a man named Archibald Cresswell, a British guy, came out in World War I and stayed and surveyed the monuments of Egypt and Syria, and published two big sets, two multi-volume books. And when he got ready to leave Egypt, the Nasser would not allow him to take his library out back to England or to England. So he left it to the American University with the proviso that there always be a separate library of Islamic art at that university, and second, that there always be a master's degree. So when I found out about all this, I really wanted to go, and of course my parents, who had visited Egypt briefly, really did not want me to go. But I filled out an application for a Rotary fellowship and went in Forsyth County in Winston-Salem and interviewed. And I didn't really know what to make of it, but I was very, very lucky, and I got support for a full year, 3 months of language in the summer, followed by a full academic year. And the second year, I got a job at USAID for 20 hours a week and finished my classwork. And I'm very proud to tell you that I made an A in everything I did there. Same thing for Carol Carolina. Yes, sir.
Are the Rembrandts currently on display at your museum or somewhere else?
Well, the Rembrandts have been at the museum last fall and then in Amsterdam. They've come back to the museum. They have to, we have to control the amount of light because they're works of art on paper, and they get only a certain amount of exposure every decade. So right now we have one Rembrandt on display with a couple of other works from the collection. It's called Focus on the Peck Collection. It's there all the time, and different themes are elucidated. So I think right now it's on copying Rembrandt, but we've had themes of Northern European artists traveling to Italy for their art. We've had one called Sleeping on the Job, which was really funny. There are many different themes that we are developing out of the Peck collection, but mostly it has to sleep in the dark, I'm afraid, to keep it forever. Yes?
The National Museum at Duke has quite a reputation as well. Does the Ackland have, do they benefit each other, or is there any collaboration between the two museums? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So recently, we and the Nasher got very, very generous grants from the Keenan Trust to work on broadening our audience appeal and getting in a more diverse audience. And in part, we're doing this through the kind of exhibitions that we are mounting. So as you saw there, we are doing the Gilcrease Native American show. We just finished a fabulous show of work by African Americans from the South. And these two grants will help us cross-market with each other and do some other activities. Our education departments are working together and other things. So we look at them more as a collaborator than a rival. It's the same with the North Carolina Museum of Art. We all have our distinctions. And our collection is the most, we are a mini encyclopedic collection. And we have, as I said, the only collection of Asian art in North Carolina. Yes, sir.
Your mention of how long it's been in the country in the United States in terms of possession of the art. Since you were in Cairo, the Pergamon Museum wasn't East Berlin,
yeah.
Now it's Berlin. Is that art going to stay there, or is the international rule different from the rule in the United States?
That rule I talked about, the UNESCO rule is, or an ICOM also, is international. So that pertains to the whole world. Yeah.
So it all stays.
As far as I know, I don't work at the Pergamon, but that would be my guess. Yeah. Yes, sir.
When you get a work of art, somebody donates something.
Yeah.
I read all about art fraud, art theft. How do you know you're getting the real money? How do you authenticate a piece of art that's 500, 600 years old?
Right, authenticating art is very, very important. Well, we consult with other experts. We find people who really know, ask them, we sometimes have them come down. We actually pay them a little bit to come and look. Several of them together to discuss something if it's that important. But you're right, it's quite important to be sure.
Do you use carbon dating on any of your?
We have done that, yes. It doesn't tell you precisely, but it gets you within a 90-year period or something. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Has the Ackland or any other museum started going into NFTs, non-fungible transactions with your art?
Yeah.
Is that something that's down the road, or you're exploring, or still trying to figure it out?
You know, we had the opportunity to work with a company to do a fundraising program wherein we would sell square inches of works of art to people, and they could own them and have a digital version of the work of art at home, and hopefully renew it or go to something else. And to be honest with you, our small staff of 27, we just literally did not have the bandwidth to take on a program like that is something I would like to do because I think it would be very popular. But as far as owning works of art, I know I was in Saudi Arabia not too long ago with an artist who said that she believes that people and even institutions are not going to own art in the future, they're just going to own NFTs. I am not with her on that. I believe that the real thing is, there's nothing like the real thing. With all its maybe warts and problems, it's authentic, and that's why museums are so important.
NFTs are
I'm sorry?
NFTs are not going to last.
Right.
They're just a fad.
Right. Right. Anything else? Well, I've really enjoyed being here, and I just want to tell you, I gave Mike, I borrowed from him this copy of our handbook of highlights from the collection that we published last summer, and it's really been quite popular. It pairs up two works of art on opposing pages, and it makes you want to guess why those things are there together. We start with the most contemporary works and go all the way to the ancient at the end. And there's a great essay called Trove about the history of the Ackland, which I really commend to you, written by our colleague Peter Nisbet. So I do invite you to come. We're open Wednesday through Sunday, and we'd like to be open 7 days a week. Maybe one day we will be, but for now that's it, and we'd love to have you anytime. Thank you.
I just wanted to say two things real quick. One is that there are membership brochures on your table. So we have a really vibrant membership program that has all kinds of benefits. Members are invited to 4 exhibition openings each year. So we typically do 4 major exhibitions. So you saw some of the ones that Katie mentioned. So we do what we call Friends First Look. So the Thursday night before the exhibition opens on a Friday, we do cocktail parties. And so it's a good chance to see people around town, to see other art enthusiasts, and so to see old friends and meet new ones. And so being a member gives you invitations to that. We also do Ackland Away for the Day trips, where we go visit artist galleries, artist studios. We go see other art making installations. And so being a member at a certain level will give you advanced access to those trips before they open up to the rest of the public. So that's one thing. The second thing is on the very back table where I guess the name tags are. So right there by the door, there are 2 clipboards, and you can sign up to get our e-news. And so our electronic newsletter that comes out basically every 2 weeks, it will keep you informed with what's going on at the museum. So if you want to get on our e-newsletter, just sign the clipboards back there. But thank y'all so much for letting us come today. It was really great.
Thank you, Jody. One last thing today. Jody, come on up. We got something special. Yeah, come on. Now, everybody knows Jody was just in Israel doing her thing and made us look bad with the good food over there. But she did do something really cool. So tell us what you did.
Well, I attended the meeting of the East Jerusalem Rotary about a week and a half ago. Rotary's not supposed to be political, but it is political over there. There are 2 Rotary clubs in Jerusalem, East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. West Jerusalem is the Israelis, and East Jerusalem is the Palestinians, and they do not meet together. And a few years ago, I attended the West Jerusalem, but I wanted to attend the East Jerusalem, but then COVID happened. And then it's very hard to track them down. They keep a very low profile. It's not easy to find out when and where they meet. There was a lot of persistence, and then I eventually ascertained that they meet every other Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the American Colony Hotel in East Jerusalem. And there was no way to contact them in advance, so I simply popped in. And it was great. They have about 20 members, and there were about 16 there, overwhelmingly male members. Very, very impressive people, professional, all fluent in English, really very impressive. They happen to have a speaker, Nathan Lubin from Memphis, who I think is a district governor. He was supposed to be talking, he tried to talk about service and Rotary, how to do service, and it got very quickly bogged down in politics. And he kept trying to steer it back to not politics, and it stayed in politics but it was great, the food was much better. I'm sorry. And I brought my Rotary flag from East Chapel Hill, so we were able to exchange flags, and I have the East Jerusalem.
Our members are everywhere, y'all. Hey, look, everybody, we're meeting downstairs next week. We won't have a speaker. We're going to have a special program next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. You'll find out a lot more about people you sit by every day in life that you might not know. So please join us next week. Thank you. Bye. Have a great weekend.
Well, I have one more question.
You got the flag.
She's off.
There's an excuse.
So nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. I will. I know. Invited me many times, but I very that is so cool. I
Let me give this to Felix.
Sorry that Bobby and I
Well done. Sorry, never been there. All right.